All right, let's go ahead and we'll go ahead and get started. So, like I said, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you're at. Thanks for joining us on MVP Office Hours. As I said, my name is Jared Kingston. I work for Aperio, and I just kind of help organize MVP Office Hours, get the MVPs together, and help answer your questions. So if this is your first time on MVP Office Hours, I'd just like to give a quick rundown of how it rolls, and that way you know what you're in for. So this is really just an open forum where you can post in the chat, you can speak up. If there's a dead spot, you can raise your hand in the web portion of the meeting. So all that we ask is that you mute your line or speakers during it. That way, we don't get any background noise, and it's easy to hear people as well. So again, feel free to speak up, raise your hand, post in the chat, and we will help you out. It sounds like I'm cutting in and out, so hopefully it'll get better here shortly. All right, so MVPs, if you'll go ahead and raise your hand, that would be awesome. All right, got a good batch of them here today. All right, so we're going to go through and just have the MVPs quickly introduce themselves so you know who we have on the line today, and I'll start at the top. Mr. Bill Greenhaw.
Good morning, everyone, or afternoon or evening. Like Jared said, my name is Bill Greenhaw. Look forward to the call.
Brendan.
Hey guys, this is Brendan Conroy, Summer 13 MVP. Let's have some fun.
Mr. Kwong.
Hi, this is Brian Kwong, also known as the guy that walks around with a wizard hat. Looking forward to it.
Awesome. Daniel, good to have you on the call.
Hey guys, it's Daniel Hoekst. I'm a developer, so I'll probably try to answer some of those questions in the last half of the hour if I can, and I'm glad to be on.
Awesome, thanks for being on. Deepa.
Hi, this is Deepa Patel. Am I cutting in and out?
No, I can hear you.
Okay, because everybody that is speaking is cutting in and out, so I might have to dial back in. But this is Deepa Patel, Salesforce MVP and Silicon Valley User Group co-leader, and look forward to speaking with you guys, and I'm going to dial back in.
All right. Philip?
Hey guys, Philip Southern here, developer. Thanks for having me.
Awesome, good to have you on. Sarah?
Sarah Deutsch here, happy Sacramento User Group groupie now, no longer the co-leader, and also Girly Geeks chapter leader. If you haven't heard of it, go check out Girly Geeks. Very happy to be here, guys.
Awesome. And then last but certainly not least, Mr. Hoskins.
Hey guys, Joshua Hoskins, Solution Architect at Aperio and Salesforce MVP, joining from London. Let's get this thing started.
All right, let's do it. So, awesome. Thanks, Josh. Good to have you on. So, we actually already have Rosie. You're all over it, which I love. So, we have a couple questions from Rosie here. So, the first one with Salesforce to Salesforce, can you do this with cross object, meaning want to map a custom object data to lead object? Anybody worked with Salesforce to Salesforce?
Can you, once again, is anybody else hearing you getting cut out or no?
It sounds like he hiccups every now and then, but it's pretty clear.
Okay, so can you repeat the question?
Yeah, so Rosie's question is Salesforce to Salesforce, can you do this cross-object? So she wants to map a custom object to the lead object.
I don't believe you can map a custom to a lead. It has to be the same object type. So if you create a custom object in one Salesforce org, it has to be a custom object in the other, because lead object is a standard object. And so when you do the connection, Salesforce looks for the standard object mapping to the standard object mapping.
Yeah, this is Daniel. I'll back that. I just found the knowledge. I was searching the help. So if you can do it, just what I found was subscribing to objects in Salesforce to Salesforce, and it says standard objects must map to standard objects in your organization, but you can map custom objects to any other custom object. So you wouldn't be able to go from a custom object to a lead because lead's a standard object.
Awesome.
So
cool. Thanks, guys.
No, unfortunately.
And she has a couple more questions here. So email to lead, how can we do this if we want to map data within the body to field on the lead object? Anybody have experience doing something like this?
You would have to write your own email services, wouldn't you, for that? That might be a Daniel question.
Yeah, that is well, I can answer it. I don't know if it's my question, but yeah, you would have to write a custom. You'd have to get into Apex code and write your own parser for that to be able to parse through the body. That can get really complicated, unfortunately.
I'll add to Daniel. That would get really complicated in terms of it could be inconsistent. So if you can, you probably want to use something more structured like web to lead for those information and get a structured input. Parsing will generally like make your life very difficult.
Awesome. Thanks, guys. Let's see here. And then Rosie had one more question, then we'll get to you, Jen. You have your hand raised there. Any way to keep track of duration on pick list values, not on case object, but custom object? Not exactly sure what that means.
So we're talking like a duration, like kind of like with cases you have how long something was in a certain status, or with opportunities how long something was in a certain stage.
Rosie says yes.
The answer is, if you're dealing with like a custom pick list, the answer is out of the box no. You have to build something to track when the stage got, or when your pick list value got set. So I've seen this done a couple different ways. Where one, if it was like just a specific pick list value, you would have a workflow rule that would set the date when that value is changed to that value, and then set the end date when it got moved out of that value. But if you have a really big pick list, that gets messy very, very quickly. And the other route that I've seen people to do to address that is they basically kind of create their own little version of history, where they create a custom object to relate underneath it, and then insert a new record in there every single time the pick list changed. But that gets a little complicated because the last time I tried it, the only way to do it was with code. But if you're dealing with one or two pick list values, doing a custom field, a couple custom date fields, so you can mark the date time when the pick list value was set and the date time it was offset, and then use a formula to calculate the actual duration, that would work. But if you got a big pick list, that's a lot of workflows, and it's going to get messy pretty quickly.
Cool. Thanks, Brian. Jen, you had your hand raised. You want to go ahead with your question?
We were on Unlimited Edition, and then we installed Nonprofit Starter Pack because we needed the multi-affiliation between contacts and accounts. So what I'm trying to do is, when we create a contact, we always start with creating a contact, and then Nonprofit Starter Pack creates a one-to-one account for that contact. I'm trying to create a workflow that if that one-to-one account is created, it'll copy whatever shipping country was in, or mailing country in the contact. I want to copy that to a shipping field in the account. And I can't seem to get that connection between account and contact on the workflow.
Any of the MVPs want to take that?
I can show you my workflow.
Yeah, see, I don't know a whole lot about the nonprofit starter pack, but when I did work with it, Salesforce has their own logic running behind the scenes because the concept is a personal account.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not so sure that it's going to allow you to override anything, even with a workflow role, because they've got the text code.
It creates the account, the one-to-one account, the nonprofit starter pack creates, and it works how we want it to work. But there is a field in contact that I want to copy over to the account when the account is created, and I can't seem to catch any contact fields in an account object workflow.
Yeah, you won't be able to because you're going downwards in the data model. So for instance, an account can have many contacts. So you really can't determine which contact you want to update. That would be consideration 1. Consideration number 2 would be, it's fine if you want to copy it, but you have to create some type of process internally where you have one master. So what's going to be the master? Is it going to be the account or is it going to be the contact? Because what's going to end up happening is you will have people trying to update the contact, but it won't necessarily update the account, or people are going to update the account and not update the contact. If you want a value from the account on the contact, the best probably way to do that is via a formula field.
Oh, okay.
But
So
yeah,
that works though. Okay.
well that would go, yeah, that would display the accounts fields on the contact. But if you did want to go up from, say, it made a change on the contact and want to update the account, then you would want to put your workflow rule on the contact. I'm not sure exactly how the nonprofit starter pack functions, and I know it's one-to-one, so it creates that account. So maybe you would have after it updates you might. So I'm assuming it creates a contact that has no relationship to an account, and then it creates the account and then updates the contact with the lookup. So you might be able to have a workflow rule that says when the account ID changes, or when the account field gets created, then I think you can do a field update at that point to the account.
Okay, that makes sense. 'Cause I was thinking about doing it in contact, but then I realized I don't want my workflow to fire before the nonprofit starter pack workflow fires.
Right. Yeah. So
That
you'd
makes
want.
sense.
Yes. Yeah. You need some criteria on that for the workflow to fire to only do it after the account has been created and associated with the contact. So I would put some sort of logic that the account has changed and has a value in it or something like that.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But didn't you say you can't even see the fields?
I'm sorry. What was that?
Didn't you say you can't even see the fields in the workflow rule?
I can't see it from the account. If I'm creating my workflow from the account object, I can't even see contacts. But maybe if I do it in contacts, then I can probably see accounts.
No,
Yeah.
see,
Yeah, that was correct, because she was trying to write a workflow rule at the account level and pull contact information, which isn't allowed. But you can go from the contact to push information onto the account.
yes, you can.
Right. The data quality issue is important. Make sure that if you're copying something, you have one place for that data to get updated, so you don't end up with 2 different countries, one on the contact and one on the account.
Okay.
Awesome. Thanks, guys. Our next question here is from Erica. How do you sort a date and time field in a report so that the time sorts correctly? Interesting one. Anybody?
So you're sorting the date time in a column. You're not doing it with you're not grouping the field.
No, it's not grouped.
Is it a true date time, or is it the created by unless modified?
It's a true date time. So what I tried to do was pull the time out of that field through formula fields, and then I ran into daylight savings time issues.
Mm-hmm.
So if you have a normal date time field and you just put that on the report and you try to sort it, what is the behavior?
The AM and PM get messed up when it has more than a certain number of digits in the time, because it's going through looking at the numbers, and then it gets to AM PM last. Sometimes they're not in the right order.
Interesting.
That is interesting. I've never seen that.
Because I know it will. I know
that.
it will work in a list view, but the report is a different thing. And if the sorting is different in a list view than it is report, that's probably something that we should create a bug for, or at least an idea. Because it does sort correctly in the list view. If you want to test that out and just make sure that works.
Okay. I'll try that. I know that this was an issue at a company I worked for before, and we ended up changing all of our fields into 24-hour format just because we just couldn't sort anything properly. I didn't know if anyone knew of a workaround.
I just ran a report because I was trying to do something similar and sorted by the date, and it looks like it's sorting correctly between AM and PM just fine.
Well, it's not the AM and PM. Like, it will do an AM, like 1 AM, and then it will pull something from, like, PM right after, and then it will do another AM because it's looking at the numbers when it reads across. So we can find an example.
Is it actually a date field, or is it a formula field that's a text of your date time?
It is a date time field.
Okay. Darn.
Yeah, that's what I was going to. I think you stumped us on that one.
Yeah, it's maybe if you post that as an idea or as a potential bug, definitely cross-post that on the MVP Office Hours group as well.
Okay.
Provide a screenshot too.
Yep.
Yeah, for sure. We'll stick with you had a couple more questions, Erica, so while we have you, we'll run through them here. Is there a way to prevent users with editor privileges from deleting a report in a public folder?
It depends on if you're using the new sharing model with report folders or not.
We are using the new one.
Because you can go... Oh, let me make sure I'm not lying to myself here. I thought you had to be a manager in order to be able to delete. But maybe I'm thinking about the folder, not the actual report.
Yeah, it's the folder. The problem is that we have users we probably have 10 users in this one folder that can all delete each other's reports, and so we'd like them to be able to customize them but not delete them.
So if they're customizing them, I mean, can you make it read-only and then force them to customize by saving the report first? Because if they customize and save, then they're just going to overwrite what's in there.
Yeah, well, we don't mind if they add a column to somebody else's reports, but we also don't want 10 versions of the same report. If we have 10 users and they each customize each other's reports, we could end up with hundreds of variations.
Okay, so there is a permission at the profile level that says Manage Reports in Public Folder. We just did an analysis for a client going through all the permissions. So there is a permission that says Manage Reports in Public Folders. And I thought I saw a different Support Exports, Report Builder.
So we have that Manage Reports unchecked because we don't want them to be able to see other folders, and that will allow them to see everything. But we do have them marked as editors, which allows them to have editor privileges in the folders that they're assigned to.
Okay, so I believe if you allow them to edit, that allows them to delete that as well. You want them to view those.
We want them to be able to edit but not delete each other's. I didn't know if anyone has found a way to do that.
Yeah, I mean, if you're given a manage ability, the only way, the only way is create and customize, right? But I don't.
I think
it doesn't have the cred
Right, yeah,
separately.
it doesn't have
No.
it doesn't have
Yeah.
CRUD like that.
Yeah.
I would
You only have the
I would-
option of manage or view.
I would say you just need a backup plan, right? Is if someone does delete, you need to be able to quickly recover it. So if you have any sandboxes, just always keep a spare sandbox, and just use a change set to repush that report if
Okay.
it somehow ends up missing. That'd be
Yeah.
your quickest way to recover it
Or it would go into our recycle bin.
for X amount of days, right?
Yeah, isn't
15
it
days.
15? Yeah.
Yep.
So it sounds like you got 2 ways to recover that if you need to.
Okay. Thank you.
Also go to ideas and post that.
Yeah. Rob Kaplan has a question on Demand Tools. Can the Demand Tools product be used to mass edit these 2 types of bad lead data? Let's see. One, accounts with closed ops for which there's no lead record at all. Accounts with closed ops for which there is a lead record, but it was never converted. So, Rob, do you want to provide any additional information on that, or is that?
Sure, I'd be happy to. Thanks, Jared. Thanks, everyone, for all of the help. So there's essentially 2 slightly different data sets of either bad or missing lead data. I forget which order I pasted them in here. Let me just have a quick look. Yeah, okay. In the first set, this would be accounts that, sorry, my screen is refreshing, so I'm not able to read it again. This would be accounts that we have a converted opportunity, but we have, we have closed opportunities, but we don't have associated converted leads. But the leads are still in there, they were never converted. Users went in and simply created new accounts with opportunities and closed and won the business. But we can't tie them back to leads that never converted. In the case of the second poor data, we have a bunch of closed won opportunities and no lead data whatsoever. Now, of course, because we sell to people, we have contacts on those accounts, so we know who we sold to. And so there are a couple of different methodologies here, and I've got a case logged. Obviously, I would need audit access in both of these solution sets to the lead converted date field. And the last person I spoke to wasn't sure if that was capable within the system audit allowance if they enable it. If it is, then I'm left with a couple of methodologies which I can use. They're very, very time intensive, lots of exports, lots of imports. But in both of these, to solve both of these data sets, I would end up having to convert leads one by one because there's no mass convert. So that's what kind of drove me over to the App Exchange. I was curious if anybody had experience with the Demand Tools application. It was recently promoted at the SF1 show in Boston as being a great tool for admin. And I guess my question is, can it be used to mass convert? And more importantly, if I've got access to the lead convert date, could that be one of the fields that I max change? Sorry, long-winded. Hope it's additional help.
I can answer the mass lead convert. The answer is yes, the Demand Tools has a mass lead convert option into it.
Cool.
And it actually works pretty slick. You go into it, you could set some things like, here are the conditions. I only want to look for leads that have pick this value, or has just leads where Joe is the first name, or whatever the case may be. And then you can set your convert settings, like this is the status it needs to be, whether or not you want to have an opportunity created and what the opportunity name would be, who the owner would be for any new account and contact, and things like that. So you can do it. For your other one where you're trying to figure out if there are leads that are open and you already have opportunities in that, unless you've made a connection between the lead and those records, there's really not a good way to use demand tools to try to figure out if this individual lead already exists as an account. There's a deduping option where you can kind of take a look and see if there's an account already based on the company name or a contact based already on the first name and last name of the lead, and that can help. But I would feel really uncomfortable of trying to use that as my primary way and only way to identify if you have a lead out there that should have been converted and wasn't. But it might do some of that heavy-duty Excel matching a little bit easier. We're going through that process right now, and it works, but it's not perfect. So what I usually do is I use demand tools to say, go find me all my leads that already exist as contacts, because I have a lot of dupes, and then I export that data into an Excel spreadsheet, and then I use that as my baseline because the match is already there, and then I could go through and see, is this something I actually want to deal with or not?
Right.
And then if you had a whole bunch of leads that you wanted to go through, what I would recommend is actually create a field that's only accessible to you as an admin. It doesn't even have to be on the page layout. And then instead of trying to deal with the spreadsheet, grab the IDs from the ones that you identify that should have been converted, and then use Data Loader to update that hidden field for you, like it could be just a checkbox. And then you could use the mass convert to say, go grab me all the leads where that checkbox is marked, and then convert them.
The one question with that is, will that allow you to convert into existing accounts and contacts? Because the UI will let you convert into existing accounts. Or demand tools will only create net new contacts, accounts, opportunities.
It depends on which tool you use. If you use the mass lead convert, it only creates new. However, there is a lead to contact deduplication. Let me try that again. A lead to contact deduplication and a lead to account deduplication tool, which will allow you to convert the lead to an existing contact or to an existing account.
Cool.
Without duping.
Yes, without duping. It basically does the same thing as if you hit the convert button on an existing lead manually, and you can go through and say, I want to convert to this existing account. And then if there's a contact with a similar first name, it will say, give you the option to, I also want to convert to this existing contact. So it does the exact same thing that you can do in the web GUI, just across hundreds at a time.
Okay, and my presumption, always dangerous, right? My presumption is that if it finds an existing contact of that name at that account where the account is a match, that it will then say, okay, well, I'm going to update that contact and give it this converted date. Actually, the converted date doesn't live on the contact. So
right, the converted date would lead on the lead that you're converting.
So the converted date remains on the lead and essentially closes out the lead, locking it away as converted. And now I've created the association via the account.
Yep.
Okay. So I could see how the Demand Tools product would help me in one data set where I have the existing leads. And I'm just basically manipulating their conversion to existing accounts. And then I guess I can go back and then I can re-edit the convert date.
No, you can't.
No, you can't. I think that gets counted.
Because the whole point of this exercise is to be able to say, look, it's not because Kaplan went and mass converted them on April 11th, and now we have all these converted dates. In fact, we want to kind of retroactively recreate lead conversion dates. So we can say this particular lead sat in our lead pipeline for 14 days before it got flipped over to an account and opportunity, and then it closed 1 week later.
I know Salesforce can allow you to access to the audit fields like the create date and last modified date.
Yes, I've got that verified, right, but not the lead converted date.
I don't know if the lead converted date is included in that or not.
Yeah, and she didn't know either. She said she was going to check. Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. Thorny one. Okay.
Yeah, so an alternative for you, and I've had to do this with some of our own, is I create a custom date field, and I default that to the convert date, but it's also an editable field. So for records where I do have to overwrite it, I can overwrite it. It's not the most friendliest way of doing it, but it is a fairly easy way of doing it.
Sorry, so you repeat that again?
I create, instead of using the standard date field, I create my own date field, a custom date field.
Right.
And that you could use a workflow rule to update it, or custom convert to update it, whatever the case needs to be, to fill in with the date that would normally be correct.
Right, but on reporting, you'd have to specify your custom field. You could not use
that's correct.
The inaccurate converted date.
That's correct.
Right, but you should be able to hide that from users in FLS if you needed to, so that they didn't get confused. FLS stands for field level security.
Yeah, understood. You could hide that.
Yeah, you could also change. You could also change the label of your custom date field.
Yeah, I was just going to say, and have it repeat
converted reports only, or something like that.
Right. Okay, which is an interesting approach. All this kind of depends on what the user, and the users in this case are much financial analysis, so naturally they're very numbers conscious, and they're also very data consistent conscious. Okay.
Awesome.
Huge help. Thank you both. Thank you, Jared.
Yeah, not a problem. All right. I saw. I'm gonna rotate to some hands raised. Mark, I saw you had raised your hand. Mark Ross, do you have a question?
Yeah, I got a quick one. It's actually something we talked about. I believe it was 2 weeks ago, and that was about coming from a flow and going to a specific screen after that flow, specifically one that is procedurally generated by whatever record we just created with the flow. And I know we talked about it last week. To be honest, I wasn't paying a whole lot of attention because I wasn't in need. Now I'm in need. Go figure, right? And I've been looking out on the internet, and there's some stuff out there, some posts by Deepak and some other things, but it's kind of spread. There's not like a single concise place where there's kind of a clear do this.
Sounds like a great blog post when you get it figured out.
Say what now?
So it sounds like a great blog post when you get it figured out.
Exactly. But since I don't know Apex, at least I don't know how to write it. I can read it, I can't write it. I'm a bit lost. I didn't know if anybody knew of a resource that was out there that did have a concise list, or what. Obviously, it would take probably a lot of time to go over like an Apex controller, Visual Force controller here on a call, but I didn't know if there was something out there.
So are you looking specifically for an Apex example of doing a redirect?
Pretty much, but coming from a flow embedded within a Visual Force, going to the record that was generated from the Visual Force, or I'm sorry, from the flow.
So there has not been a whole lot of great resources that talk about mixing Apex and Flow together, especially on your end.
Yeah, we were talking about that yesterday.
Yeah, so there really isn't a good connection to it. The way I would probably opt for it is, well, there's a couple different ways. The one way is you can write what's called an Apex class and actually embed that as part of your flow.
Right.
And then when you connect it, you can actually say this is what you're going to call in your class. So you can write a piece of Apex that literally is just doing a page redirect, and then that's what you end up calling as your last action. That might work.
Yeah, I actually have a good example that I can post to the Office Hours group for you.
Oh, that'd be awesome.
I think that'd be the easiest way to do it. But yeah, the code isn't that difficult to do.
Okay. Yeah, because there's quite a few things out there, but they get quite disparate.
Yeah.
A lot of them aren't very similar. You see one person posted a chunk of code that's like 2 pages long, and another person posts a chunk of code that's like 5 lines, and you're like, wait a second, what am I doing?
Yeah. And, Mark, I'm about to do a visual flow process where I was going to need the exact same thing. So if you're looking for some little help after the call too, feel free to ping me out there.
Okay. Who is this? Is Brian?
This is Brian Kwong.
Okay, that's what I thought. Okay.
Yeah, and I'm actually wanting to do the same thing here soon as well. So whatever you figure out, blog about that bad boy.
Okay, I will do that. I will be sure to give everybody their credit as well.
Yeah, awesome, cool, thanks.
Good stuff.
Thanks, guys. All right, let's see. Erica, you had another question here. Have you ever seen relationships groups used outside of the Salesforce for wealth management application? I'm not exactly sure of that. Anybody have any ideas there? Anybody use the Salesforce for wealth management app?
We lost you there a lot. At least I did. It went in and out quite a bit.
Oh, sorry. Our question is ever seen relationships groups used outside of the Salesforce for wealth management app? I actually haven't heard of that app before, but any other MVPs ran across that app, or any detail you want to add, Erica?
It's basically for householding. And it looks like it just came out probably this winter from Salesforce, and they're using it for one app, but we're thinking about using it in a different application. We just didn't know if anyone had seen it used. Doesn't sound like it.
Yeah, unfortunately not. I mean, that would be a good thing to post to the Answers community.
Okay, thank you.
All right, let's see here. And we're going to go switch back to a hand raised here. Let's see, Chris Kim, you've had your hand raised.
Yes, I was just wondering, is there a way to mass update reports? So the scenario is we're actually going to be replacing a stage name. I understand with workflows we just have to change them manually, but with reports and dashboards, is there a way we can mass update, perhaps like the filter and things like that?
So I had to do this at the beginning of the year.
Mm-hmm.
The good news is, yes, kind of. The bad news is it's still a royal pain in the backside.
Okay.
The way I ended up doing is I went and got the IDE with Eclipse and created a project that just contained all our reports and did a search for the particular name of the stage. And basically I did a find, replace. So every place it was listed in the filter or something like that, I replaced the old stage with the new stage. But you can't, well, you might be able to, but I felt really uncomfortable having the system try to mass do it automatically and be all done. So I went through every single one individually and make sure it was something I actually wanted to change.
Mm-hmm.
But once it's there, you can then take that file and basically save it back to the server and it updates. But it's still, it's not like you wave a magic wand and it's all done for you. But it's a lot better than going into every single report going, is this filter being used, yes or no? No, go back, go to the next report. Is this filter being used? Yes, make the change.
Mm-hmm.
Or I guess as another option, you could also use the metadata API to do your search, and then that would help you identify your reports, and then you just go through the UI to actually do the update. I've done that before as well.
Yeah, that's basically what Eclipse is doing.
Right. Yeah.
The other option is if you're a Premier support person with the admin package, you could tell them this is what you want done and make them do it.
That's true. We do have Premier Plus, so.
There you go. That's the route I would take.
Okay. All right.
In all seriousness, that's.
Yep. Create a ticket right away. Thanks,
that's what they're there for.
Yep.
Awesome. Cool. Thanks, guys. All right. So flipping back to the chat here, Raina has A question about some slow reports. So her question is, we're experiencing slow reports on contacts. How many records constitute a deployment with a large data volume? We have 2 million contact records. Where's the best place to start with slow reports? Anybody have experience with this one?
What was the question again?
Just really, where's the best place to start with reports running slow? Maybe with really large data volumes. What's kind of the threshold there?
Well, what I would do on that is take a look at what you're filtering by, because that's going to impact how fast it's going to run. So certain fields can be indexed by Salesforce and can then be queried and filtered by much more easily. So if your reports have a field, one way to do it to kind of force Salesforce to index fields is to make them unique. So if you can flag them as unique, then that means there can only be one of those. That that value can only be found once, and you can then have an index on it. You can also contact support and have them add some other indexes if you can't do it like through the UI. So if you have a couple different fields that you're always filtering on, and you can kind of identify that those are the ones that when you add them, they're taking a long time to run, sometimes you can contact support and have them add indexes on those fields for you. But it can be hard to get them to do that. You have to really prove that that's what's causing your slowness.
Right, and last would be the columns that you're selecting. If you have formula fields that you're trying to select and output inside the report, or even just a page layout, the runtime for that formula field for those X records that it's trying to return can be comprehensive as well, depending on the complexity of the formula field.
Awesome, thanks guys. And then let's see. Going back to hands raised, Jen, you had your hand raised for a question?
Yes, I do. Is there a field I can reference to find out if a contact was created by a lead conversion? I'm asking because I'm creating a trigger that I want to fire only if that contact is created and it's from a lead conversion, not some other ways we create contacts.
Yes.
That's the answer.
Yes. Yes, I was hoping one of you guys would weigh in with the field name. I just know that yes, we do capture the converted ID. I just lost that where exactly it is. So I know when you create a lead, it will store the converted account ID and the converted contact ID. So that is available.
On the lead, but if in the contact, if I want the trigger to fire on a contact creation.
Yeah, so it's not specifically on the contact, but there is a way to grab it, because once that contact is so your lead is going to get converted and the ID is going to be passed back to the lead. So then what you would do is on create or on insert or on update, you could search for the lead with the contact ID. So you have to do your DML, your data manipulation layer trigger on the contact object, and when you save, you could go search for that contact ID after it's saved in the lead object to determine whether it was definitely from a lead.
Yeah, the field you want is the converted contact ID.
You may also be able to use, so the contact has a field called lead source. So you might be able to use that lead source to identify whether it came from a lead or not as well.
That's not a for sure thing, because if you're using a particular status, the user can manually set the status.
Right, yeah, but it's I guess I was just saying it's an option you might be able to look at to say if the only time you're setting lead source is through lead conversion, then you might be able to do something with it.
Another option that you can do is create a custom field on the contact that you then map to a formula field that's on your lead, so it only fills in from a lead convert, and that's a field that isn't on the page layout, so your users can't modify it.
Good call. Good call.
but that will only work going forward for lead conversion.
If you don't need any data on the lead object, if you're trying to use data on the lead object, then that's the case. But still, your best case solution is to map the data you need to the contact and just identify that yes, this indeed came from a contact. I like that.
Okay. Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks, guys. All right, we have a couple questions here from Kimberly that have been out here for a while, so I want to get to those. First one is, in opportunities, how do I change the pick list choices under grant in quotation stage? So, first of all, I'm guessing you're using nonprofit starter pack. Is that correct, Kimberly? Do we have you out there? Maybe on mute.
She's out there twice.
Okay. Well, I would say, yeah, you can change those pick list values. It would just be under setup for, and I would believe it still calls it opportunity, but under setup, you would just go to setup, customize, and then the fields, and choose that stage field.
So just to add to that, just to add to that, you might, if they have multiple record types, you might have to do some modification on the record type to choose which pick lists or values are valid for whatever record type.
Yep. Yeah.
Or it's actually a sales process, not record type, right? Gosh, it's so long.
Yeah.
On the opportunity, it's a sales process.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you may have to opt in or opt out those different sales stages for the sales process if you're looking to determine which ones are on the sales process.
And then, so her next question here is, how do we retain pick list values already captured when converting a field from pick list to text?
Why are you converting a pick list to text?
Yeah, that would be my first question.
What is the business case behind that?
Yeah, sounds like we may have lost Kimberly, but just to answer, I would say to answer that, yeah, I would first ask that question that Deepa said. But what I would say is, if you absolutely had to do it, you could always export that data, and then just once you've converted the field, then just update the text field with your export. That should.
Well, normally, if you're trying to bring the value into a text field, you can actually write a formula, and no, you can't write a formula. No. Well, is it a single select pick list, did you say, or multi-select pick list?
It just said pick list, so I'm guessing single select. So, I mean, if you wanted to bring that into a text.
If you want to convert it to you just use the text function in brackets and then mention that on that pick list value field, and now you've got a text value with a pick list value. It gets tricky when it's a multi-select.
Yeah, but wouldn't the value be the same? Like it'd be.
Yep.
From a user
it would be the
perspective.
same.
Yeah.
It would be the same. That's why I asked. I said, "Why are you converting it to text?"
Are you sure it wasn't converted like it was a pick list on the lead that they want as a text field on the opportunity?
I don't.
That's how I was interpreting the question.
That's an interesting point, but sounds like we
need to move on because the person's not there.
Yeah. So the next person, Jessica Kellum, you have a question? I saw your hands raised. Thanks for your patience. Jessica, do we have you out there still?
You do, sorry.
No
I had a question that went back to demand tools and using it to mass lead convert. I heard it was said like duplicates. Can that be done with contact to contact? I know the question was lead to contact.
There is a demand tools does have what they call a single table dedupe tool, which will dedupe contacts to contacts It will dedupe accounts, and it will dedupe pretty much any table in the system. So I've actually used it to dedupe opportunities. It is a fantastic, absolutely fantastic tool. What I like about contacts is you can actually dedupe within say I want to dedupe contacts that are duplicates within a single account, or you can say I want to dedupe contacts that are across accounts, meaning that they could be on different accounts, which is not something you can do with the default merging capability of Salesforce. And it lets you write a lot of rules that can make it as stringent and as strict as you want to, as loose as you want. So, long-winded answer to basically say yes.
Wait, and what was it called? You said single table?
Single table dedupe.
Okay. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. It's all part of the Demand 2 suite. So if you get Demand Tools, you get that along with a whole bunch of other absolutely fantastic tools.
All right, thank you.
Awesome. All right, our next question here is from Erica again. Is there a way to send out password expiration reminders to users? Not that I know of, but maybe you would be able to do something fancy with the new workflow off of a user object. That's the only thing I could think of.
Is that a user expiration rule?
Yeah, with a password expiration. I don't know how exactly you do it.
Oh, it's for password expiration?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, I think that a couple things. One is I think we probably only store the last time the password was reset, and we can get that. And then you'd probably have to build something that added in statically probably a date from there, right? And so that data is customized. You probably can't get access to it because it's metadata. And so I think at a minimum it would probably be like batch Apex with running through some records, adding X amount of days to the last password reset, and sending something. But there's probably something in the user object too.
There is a last password change date on the user. So if your settings is your passwords expire every 90 days, you should be able to write a time-based workflow off of that date.
That's why we have user workflow now.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I was just looking at my dev org at that. Yeah, so yeah, you could use that date and time field to say, send the email 90 days or whatever after this date. So there you go. Give that a shot. That sounds interesting. I like that. Yeah, not a problem. Our next question here is from Michael. Does object history tracking impact your storage limits?
No, I just looked it up on help.
I was just about to say yes, it does.
Well, who's right? Because I just looked it up. I'm going to reply back to Michael.
So it says, I still have it up actually, retaining historical data increases the amount of data you need to store. The effect depends on the ways your organization works. For example, if someone updates the status of a typical opportunity record every day or two, the historical trending data for the status field on the opportunity object will take up more space than it would if opportunity status values changed only once or twice a month.
That's crazy because I'm looking at a website right now. It's actually something. It's probably like an ID. I think it's a question from 2002 with Neb, and it's copy and paste. It says history data does not count against your organization's storage
okay, limit. I think we're talking about two different things then. So do they want? Is it the new historical trending or the older track changes on fields?
The track changes on fields.
Okay. That one, yeah. That one's no. Sorry, I was thinking about the newer one, which is the when you enable historical trending on objects, where they can basically like cache it along the way, which is a really cool feature. But
yeah, I can see that. It's almost like analytic snapshots, which would be why.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So I see that it's posted in there for that answer, except I can't find that specific when you look into help and training.
Well, let's see. I mean, I can tell. I guess I could verify. One way I could verify would be to look at my org. I know we've got historical tracking on a bunch of fields. Do you have it currently on fields in your org? Because you could go into your storage usage and look, and it tells you by object what's taking up your storage.
Okay.
And your history fields are objects. I'm not sure if they're listed in there, but they are objects.
So let's see. Yeah. So I don't see the standard history ones in mine, and I know we have a lot of track changes on. But
cool. The answer is no. I'm going to try to find that article that was pasted in that answer, and if I can get it, I'll post it to MVP Office Hours.
Okay, great. Thanks.
Awesome. Cool. Yeah. We're about 2 minutes left, so we'll go ahead and wrap up here, and we don't have any other questions out there. So appreciate everybody joining today. Thanks for a lot of great questions. Thanks, MVPs, for joining and helping out, answering those questions. And as always, let us know if you guys have any feedback. We'd love to improve. So have a great weekend, and we will talk to you in 2 weeks.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
Cheers.
Bye, guys.